Great, thank you, Mr. Clerk. So I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to this meeting of Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation. It's 1 p.m., so we'll get rolling through the agenda. We do have one deputation from Prince Edward, Lennox, and Addington Social Services, Lynn, Chenier, and Scott Robertson, and they'll be speaking to us as a presentation. So let's get started. So I need a motion to confirm the agenda. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Nyman, Councillor McNaughton. You could, yes, please.
No, because I'm just pulling up my, yes, I do. I really want to read this for you, Brad. Motion to confirm, McNaughton, Nyman motion to confirm that the agenda for the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation meeting of April 14th, 2025 be confirmed.
Okay.
Because I didn't need that.
All in favor? That's carried. And again, Councillor Grosso is streaming in. There he is. Okay, so disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have anything they wish to declare? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4.1, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held March the 10th, 2025. Could I have a mover and seconder for the motion to receive? Councillor McNaughton, seconded by Councillor Grosso.
Thank you. That the minutes from the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation meeting held on March 10th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Does anyone have any comments regarding those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And now we're at 5.1, presentation from Lynn Chenier, Director, and Scott Robertson, Manager, Prince Edward, Lennox, and Addington Social Services, PELASS, to present regarding services provided as the county's social services manager. So, okay, so welcome Lynn, welcome Scott. And typically under a presentation, you have about 20 minutes, but we'll be rather flexible if you feel that you need a little more time, but the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Can you go to the next slide, please? So I just wanted to start off with kind of how this partnership between Prince Edward County and Lennox and Addington County began. So in 1988, the province directed that service delivery agents go to the upper tiers, and they wanted populations of 50,000 or more in order to be a service delivery agent. So Lennox and Addington County and Prince Edward counties both were less than 50,000 people. So they chose to come together to become a service delivery agent. So that's how we have this partnership between the two counties. Next slide, please. So the governance for Prince Edward, Lennox, and Addington Social Services, and you'll hear Scott and I refer to that as PELASS throughout the presentation. There are 3 county councillors from Prince Edward County and 3 from Lennox and Addington County who sit on the PELASS committee. The PELASS committee chairs rotate each year, so one year the chair would be from Prince Edward County and the vice chair would be from Lennox and Addington, and the next year it would be the reverse. And next slide, please. You can see here, here's a brief history of the funding formula. So costs are shared between the two counties using a formula that takes into consideration the weighted assessment, social assistance caseload, and the number of social housing units within both counties. And that's how we come up with the funding formula. And you can see how it's pretty stable. It has slight fluctuations over the years, but for the most part, it's pretty stable. Next slide. So thank you for allowing us to speak on housing and homelessness services within Prince Edward and Lennox and Addington counties. And at the end, we'll also talk about a couple of the other programs that PELASS offers in both counties as well. Next slide. This is a picture of the housing continuum, which I'm sure you have all seen. PELASS works in mostly in the lower or the sectors on the left. So homelessness, supportive housing, I'm having a hard time reading it, sorry. Transitional housing, affordable housing, and rent geared to income housing. We do not foray into the market housing at all, and our involvement in affordable housing is very limited. And that's usually only when there is funding that is flowed from either the province or the feds or both. So really the affordable housing has come in the past from the program called Investments in Affordable Housing. And you'll see later on in the slide how many units are in each county that we were able to support through that program. That program has now ended, so it's no longer available to us. Next slide. All right, so I will pass it over to Scott, and he can talk more in detail about it.
All right, thanks, Lynn, and thank you very much for the invitation today. So there's a couple different types of housing. One is local housing corporation. You'd know that around town as like our building at Mary Street, Lake Street, Disraeli Street. So we directly own and manage those. And there's a total of 115 of those in Prince Edward County. And then we deal with nonprofit housing providers. So really simply put, we provide housing providers with funding. They house low-income people and give us a report back. It's much more complicated than that. But so if you're familiar with Harmony Homes or Picton Seniors Homes, that's one of our nonprofits. And Quinny's Isle Nonprofit is another one. And so a total of 90 units in Prince Edward County. All right, next slide. A rent supplement. So rent supplements are where we go to the private market, and let's say, I'll use easy numbers. So let's say rent is $1,000 a month, which I know it's higher than that, but, and a person makes, I don't know, $2,000 a month. So they pay 30% of their income towards rent, and we give the rest, we rent supplement that, and so the landlord still gets the full $600 or $1,000. So the tenant in that case would pay $600, we pay $400, and that's what a rent supplement unit is. And we funded a whole bunch of those from back in 13 years ago, and then that program ran out. So we've been slowly transitioning out of our rent supplement program as we haven't left anybody unhoused, but as people move out, we don't renew the rent supplements. We unfortunately can't afford to. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. Housing services and PELASS. So there's a chart here that you can see the different areas we're involved with, like our local housing corp, nonprofits, rent supplements, affordable, and transitional. I'm going to cover what transitional are a little more in another slide, but it's just where we're housing people who are unhoused. So I think you can see for Prince Edward County, there's 298, and it's miraculously close to the that 36% of the costs that you pay for PELASS. And that's just coincidence, because when you look at the local housing corporation units, those are pretty big imbalance there, but those were built in the 70s based on population in the 70s. So that's reflective of that. Grab water or my voice will start to get raspy. Just kidding, it's always raspy, but it gets extra raspy. So PELASS funding, this is how our funding works. So the net cost to operate PELASS, so that's Ontario Works, Housing, Children's Services, is a little over $4 million. And there's the apportionment there, $2.64 million for Lennox and Addington, and about almost 1.5 for Prince Edward. Homelessness prevention program. That's sorry, talking to the mic because it's recorded. That's a provincial program, and we get almost $2.5 million for that program. One of the biggest things we apply this money to is to prevent homelessness. So people, and there's a slide on this later, but people who, late with their rent, your utilities are going to be cut off, that kind of things, we help them. But this year we were able to distribute $962,000 to community agencies. And in Prince Edward County, So a big chunk goes to Prince Edward County because there's a few different programs, Leeward House, Housing Liaison. I always forget Judith's name. I know her and I know what she does, but I forget the name. Housing help worker, okay, and some other stuff. And we've got community advocacy and legal clinic that provides services in both areas. But we give money to the Hub and the Rock, and I'm not sure who else in Prince Edward County that way. Oh yeah, PELC at Prince Edward Learning Center as well. Yes. All right, next slide. Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative, we received $351,000 for that program for last year. And we used a lot of that money for rent supplements, but we also used it for a program called Ontario Renovates, where low-income homeowners can have repairs completed on their homes. And we, less than half, $50,000 went to Prince Edward County. So that was good. The Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative. So we pay for some rent supplements, but mainly that pays for repairs in existing housing. When I was putting these slides together, so I thought, well, in our local housing corporation, I wonder how much went to Prince Edward County and how much went to Lennox and Addington County. Well, it was quite an imbalance last year, 13% to 87%, but it's based on our capital plan, and our capital plan in no way was put together trying to keep jobs even from one spot to the next. And the year before, I just had to note that in 23, 24, actually 48% of our COCHI, or Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative funding, landed in Prince Edward County. Next slide. This is a little bit more of a breakdown with our homelessness prevention program funding. So that community outreach and support services, $711,000. Emergency shelter solutions, so that's what covers the Morningstar Michigan mission in Napanee and covered the HOPE program here in Picton. Housing assistance, that's that one where we're paying rent arrears. We also have a program, or in that program is, if somebody, for example, is leaving Leeward House or leaving transitional housing and they need help with first and last month's rent, they can get it from that program, out of that fund as well. And then we have supportive housing, which is our transitional housing program, where that takes a little over $300,000 to operate that. So, oh, here we go. I knew I spelled this out somewhere. So Prince Edward County Leeward House, their housing help coordinator. Next Step Housing, which which is the Youth Hab, or Career Edge is the parent company. And they provide us with an intensive case manager who's been really a great help in addressing housing issues with some of our most difficult clients. We've got the Hub. They have their Good Food Box, their baby box program. I just like to be that I'm in this position and I can say I help feed babies, low-income babies. That's great. I don't actually do that. The Hub looks after that, but they have care packages for low-income parents where they can pick up and make sure that their kids are getting nutritious food, which is fantastic. And then the Rock, they have some food programs and other programs for youth. So the housing assistance piece. So here's some more details. We processed 899 payments for over $800,000 to help people secure or maintain housing. There's a thing called the by name list, and that tracks the number of people who are unhoused in a community. I think we've got 69 people on that list right now, but it's generally accepted. Whatever that number is, you've got, the reality is 2 or 3 times the number of unhoused people in your community, because we don't know we don't know about them all. We just know about the ones that either come to us looking for help or get referred to us by another agency because they know that they need help. This is our transitional housing that we operate. So we have, I thought I listed it somewhere. How many? I think we've got 6 homes in Napanee and 1 home here in Picton. And so basically what happens is a person moves into our transitional housing. They're coming right from the street. Some of them have lived on the street 4 or 5 years. They get a room in a house, and we provide support services. And the support services that we can't provide, we network with other agencies to make sure that the people are getting those services, like mental health or addictions help and things like that. There we go. Housing assistance, so more about transitional housing. So we have a program where the vacancies in our local housing corporation, 1 in every 10th vacancy, we fill with somebody from our by name list. And we've done that with a few units here in Picton. We've done them in almost every building that we have in our portfolio. So, and I'm happy to say that all the people who have moved in, who have graduated from our transitional housing program and moved into what we call our 1 in 10 vacancy program, they all remain housed today. So that's a huge success. We've actually, with our transitional housing program, now successfully solved homelessness for 41 people. So 41 people who were unhoused now have permanent housing. So that's great. Supportive housing. So we use that just to connect people to community services. One of the things that we used to have going, and we will be starting up again, is a network of people that met to talk about homelessness. I think it kind of faded out because there's now the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. There's an action team for housing and homelessness where we talk about lots of things, but I'll be talking to Alice about approaching that group to see if there's enough interest to get the housing and homelessness working group going again in Prince Edward County. So homelessness, lots of challenges with homelessness, as I'm sure you're aware of. The average rent in Prince Edward County is $1,950. I know there's lots of sources for this, but that one was from the Rural Housing and Information System, and basically for 1 bedroom. So a person on Ontario Works can get up to $390 a month, and a person on ODSP can get up to $582 a month for rent, so nowhere close. Sometimes, if we can get 2 people receiving ODSP to partner up, they can get a not very nice apartment. So it's tough. And even if a person was working 40 hours a week, their monthly income is $2,700. Well, that'd leave $800 for the rest of your life to figure out the rest of what you need to do in your life for that month: food, clothing, looking after your kids, all that stuff if you have a vehicle. So it makes it really tough. And a senior receiving maximum OAS is even less. It's $2,400. And if you're paying $2,000 a month for rent, it can be really tough. Sorry. I had the number. Oh, sorry. 79 people on our by name list. 13, well, it says Prince Edward County and Lennox and Addington, but more accurately, those are 13 people from Picton, and all the 66 people who are unhoused in the LNA, Lennox and Addington, are from Napanee or living in Napanee. And it takes about 1.5 to 3 years for people living in transitional housing to move from living to us to on the street. It takes about 6 months to a year just to work through that they don't live on the street anymore. So it's things like following a calendar, that the time of day actually is important and means something, because for 4 years, it didn't matter what time of day it was, you just slept wherever. And sort of getting back into that pattern. And then it's like, after about a year, it's like, okay, and then moving on with their life. And sometimes some of the programs that we provide in our transitional housing, sometimes we have a community paramedic program that goes around and eliminates lots of visits to the hospital with that program. We have some very basic life skills stuff, like why it's important to keep meat refrigerated. They haven't had a fridge for 4 years. So just things like that. It takes a while, but we're having success at the end. So it's definitely worth it. So,
Just, Ben, did you get a notice from Crystal that she wants in?
Yes, I just went right.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to interrupt.
no
We
problem.
just have
Sorry,
another member
I
that's
see
looking
there's
to
a
join.
typo in this. It should be 42 of the 79 people on the by name list live in our transitional housing programs. Because that's not permanent housing, that still counts. So I kind of like it that at least half of them have somewhere to sleep tonight. 41 people have got permanent housing. The homeless prevention benefit, that $810,000 budget line or program, 564 households were helped last year to maintain their housing or to acquire housing, which was great. And then the financial supports in the community. Generally, we fund things, activities in the private or in the community agencies, things that we don't do. So we didn't have a staffed home in the Prince Edward County area. Prince Edward County came to us with a great idea about how to have one, so we fund that. We don't have a baby box program, but the hub does, so we'll give them funding to do that. So that's how those work. This must have been a really important slide because it's in here twice. And again, if you wanted to review that, anybody who missed it the first time, it's in there again. And then you're going to do the Ontario Works piece? All right.
Sorry about that. We must have had some printing problems when we were putting that together. So in addition to all the housing programs and services that we offer through PELASS, we also administer the Ontario Works program in both counties. And Ontario Works is basically, it's basic financial assistance. It's money for food and shelter for those that qualify for Ontario Works assistance. We also have mandatory and discretionary benefits. So an example of mandatory would be medical, travel, and transportation. A discretionary benefit might be dental for an adult. We have temporary care assistance, and this is for children who are not able to live with their parents and are living with a family member or even sometimes a stranger, and it's a small amount of assistance to help maintain that residence for that child. Emergency assistance is generally it's issued in the event of an emergency, so potentially a flood, a fire, those kinds of things. It's a one-time, one-off benefit. And then we also assist with the cost of funerals for low-income families. Next slide. And then we also have children's services within our department, and we provide childcare fee subsidy to eligible parents to assist with the cost of childcare. We also have the oversight and accountability for service agreements and funding for childcare and the early years system. We're responsible for implementation of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system in Prince Edward and Lennox and Addington. And we support and provide leadership to the child care and early years system to build capacity to support an inclusive and high-end system. And we manage the early on child and family centers. So that's kind of where the children's services fits in. A lot of our work that the staff do at PELASS is system navigation, helping people to connect to the resources that they need to improve their situation or be successful. So that could be next steps in trying to find a doctor, getting a social insurance card, referrals to community groups, churches, food programs, all of those kinds of things. The system navigation piece is very, very integral for case planning with individuals. We all know we all can't do it on our own, so being able to have conversations, get to know people, find out what they need, what are their challenges. So maybe they're able to pay their rent, but they don't have enough food for school lunches for their child. Connecting the dots and connecting them up to the resources that they need. And some of the connections that we make here in Prince Edward are the Prince Edward Learning Center, Salvation Army, Career Edge, Employment Ontario, the CMHA, Hastings Prince Edward, Mental Health Services, The Rock, Community Advocacy Legal Clinic. We also do referrals to Canada Pension, ODSP, And we can help with those applications as well. So there's quite a mixed bag of what we're able to assist with. And next slide. So there's, we collect data on all the different programs, and it's available on our website. It's available to the public, council, committee, whoever would like to see it. There's a link in the presentation if you're interested in seeing it. It's broken down by program, and then it's also broken down by county. So there are some things, though, that we're not able to split by Prince Edward and Lennox and Addington, just because the data, the system that we collect from doesn't provide the breakdown from it. But where we can, we do break it down. So please feel free to jump on there anytime to look at the different numbers. The by name list numbers are on there, application numbers for Ontario Works, and quite a variety of different things. So please feel free to check that out. Next slide. Okay. And that's it. And Scott and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn and Scott. I know for my part, while I thought I understood what PELASS does, there was a few things there that I was unaware of. So I'm very pleased to get that broader, and I think all of us are, to have that broader understanding of what the services are that PELASS offers to our community. So I'm going to open the floor to questions. Start with Councillor Nyman, and I'll make sure I pay attention to the screen with the two who are joining us virtually.
Thank you. And thanks for the presentation. So I guess kind of where I'm heading is, so we got the Housing Corporation here in Prince Edward County, and then PELASS, but I guess, you know, kind of what I'm thinking is, how can we work together to get more people in houses is one thing. And then I guess, you know, I don't know if it's rent geared to income or whatever, or however we want to do it, but how do we get more of those houses in Prince Edward County? And I know I asked that question before, and it was the available land is what had the response I got. So I'm just wondering, how do we work together to get to address the situation?
Sure.
I'll start. You can jump in with anything I miss. Thank you for the question. The hard part about increasing the number of rent geared to income housing units is that all of the housing that was built was done in the 70s and 80s by the province and by the federal government of Canada. So those were big investments from those levels of government at the time. And I really believe that it's going to take those kinds of big investments again. I don't think Prince Edward or Lennox and Addington, we're not in a position to probably do a full rent geared to income building. I think building costs are excessively high, rents are low. When you apply for funding from CMHC, you have to be able to show the viability of the building, which means that the building is paying for itself, which is not going to happen when you have, you know, a 35 unit building that is all rent geared to income. So I agree, it's totally challenging. I think it needs to be a combined effort between all the levels of government as well as developers in order to make that work. And then it's not going to be a building like they built traditionally back in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. It's going to be a mixed-use building, which definitely has its advantages, but even with a mixed-use building, it's still very, very challenging to make the building profitable. So the numbers of rent geared to income units would be significantly less than it's been in the past, and significantly less with affordable housing as well, because they're two different things. So it's not really a great answer in terms of how to do it. It's keep applying for that funding from CMHC, and hopefully one time it'll be a yes. But I know it's very, very challenging for small municipalities to get funding, and even municipalities larger than us are having a hard time securing that funding from them. It seems they like the cities, it seems. And feel free to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just add. Yeah, so those legacy programs that Lynn was talking about, they were built with So the LHC units, they all have 50-year debentures. So some of those are reaching their end, but it's kind of like a mortgage. But like Quinny's Isle had a 35-year mortgage. And so then provincial and federal governments were kind of on the hook for continuing subsidies for 50 and 35 years. And they eventually didn't like that enough to the point where they've never come out with legacy programs like that again. What they tend to do is subsidize the housing at the start. So in 2015, if you applied to build a housing, you got $150,000 per unit to build from CMHC if you had a successful application. It's still $150,000, despite that it costs so much more to build now than it did then. And the problem is, like Lynn was saying, you have to be showing, CMHC won't fund the project unless you can show that it will carry itself. Now, it's allowed to carry itself by the municipality, by Prince Edward County or Lennox and Addington County saying, and we guarantee $1 million a year in subsidies to make the rent affordable, but people don't like forever. You know, like that'd be a forever thing. And people generally don't want to get into those long-term subsidy commitments. So that's some of the things preventing the creation. It's almost, we actually created 8 new units in Tamworth that opened in 2023, right? This is right after I said, yeah, 2023. And that was just, I think we drew from 5 different funds that we got from the province in order to, and then threw in, I think, $1 million of PELASS reserve housing funding to make that work. It was almost like, you know, the perfect elements were available to us at that point. But yeah, it's definitely really tough. I'll just add that we just had a provincial election, about to have a federal election, and I would like to see a program where, you know, they dedicate some funding for nonprofits to build affordable housing, or even private developers to build affordable housing, but that hasn't, none of those commitments have come through yet. Sorry, long answer.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I have one other question. So the nonprofit homes, and I think that was on page 14, agenda package. Can you just explain a bit more on that? And I thought you gave us how many were in the county here. So I'm just wondering, how do we expand that program to include more people?
Sure, yeah. That would be the same answer as the last one, just whatever funding that people can acquire. So that's that the CMHC makes funding available to municipalities, to nonprofits, to private developers with whatever ideas they want to bring together. And I think, sorry, Councilman, I mean, just to follow up on your first question, one of your first things was, how can we work together? I think we already are working together, but I would see key, like every now and then the province or feds announces a program. There's most recent has been like the investment in affordable housing program that kind of wrapped up in 2018, where they say, hey, we'll give you a block amount of funding and you can create housing with it. That's where I'd really see the partnership with this group taking off and actually creating housing, is when there's funding available. That would be like the first group we'd go to.
Can I just follow up on that?
Sure,
point?
you
Building from the ground up, they would have said no. So then you had to find somebody who makes prefab homes and figure something out. So it seems like every program comes with a bit of a new, twist to it. But generally, the one things that usually aren't our standard is, affordable means 80% of average market rent. There's some sort of income testing to make sure that low-income people are getting those and things like that. And almost always, like Disraeli, Mary Street, our development there, 100% of those units are subsidized, and that doesn't happen anymore. Even Quinny's Isle, that was built in 1988, they have 42 units, and 39 of them are rent geared to income, but they have 3 markets. And way more popular now is like If you know Phil Spry, anybody heard of Phil Spry? He's a developer. He has, I think, 3 or 4 projects that are 20 units. There's 10 affordable, 10 market. And those market rents help pay for the operating costs of the building. So that's sort of split where you 50-50, or sometimes it's more like 75 market and 25% affordable, just so you can just so the building can cover its own costs. But that's more popular now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor McNaughton, and then I have Councillor Grosso.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It's always, every time I've seen a presentation from PELASS, it's very sobering. Not that we're all not already very sober here. I do have a couple of questions regarding the programs, existing programs that don't necessarily touch on the housing, creation of housing directly, which is sort of maybe our purview. But I'm just wondering regarding the homelessness prevention programs that I didn't have a chance to look at the metrics dashboard to see if funding pools were fully subscribed. And I'm interested if they are, for example, the retention funds, were they all subscribed? The repair funds, were those all subscribed fully? And then I would have some subsequent questions regarding those. And I'm also wondering about your work with Child Protective Services. Every time we see Highland Shores come to us for a presentation, there's usually a very small piece of their pie chart regarding child removals. A couple of them, 2 or 3 every year, will be because of financial reasons, people are losing access to their children. And I'm just wondering how it looks like you work in that space a little bit, and I'm wondering if that's a target to prevent financial surrendering, like financially based surrendering of your children to a child protective service, which I think Highland Shores is ours, and I don't know which organization covers Lennox and Addington.
Thank you for that question. We have a duty to report, so we do interact with Children's Aid on that level. Every person in Prince Edward County could apply to the homelessness prevention benefit program if needed. So if they're pending eviction, they've been served eviction notices, they've been served disconnection notices, anyone can contact us. We will do an income test to ensure that, to determine whether or not they have eligibility. We can make payments directly to their landlord, to their utility provider to keep them going, things like that. Generally, if someone is receiving assistance, they may still have their children taken away as a result of financial difficulty, just because you saw the numbers in terms of how much someone on Ontario Works receives and how much the rents are. So
It's awful.
it's terrible.
It's really awful.
It
It's
is,
shameful.
absolutely. We can use the HPB benefit to help extend that a little bit. We can't use it on a monthly basis because it's not an ongoing payment. It's a one-off, one-time type of payment. So it's not going to necessarily prevent their children being removed. And maybe they owed so much that even with the HPB, they can't stay. So if somebody owes, $10,000 in rent arrears, we can't help them with the $10,000 in rent arrears, unfortunately. We can help them maybe with first and last to secure a new place, but the fact that they're $10,000 in arrears to pay that, we know that's just going to happen again. So it's not sustainable, so we wouldn't probably assist in a case like that. So we reach out to Children's Aid when, we identify that there may be an issue. They get in contact with us. They refer parents to our office that may not be in receipt of social assistance, or they might not qualify for assistance, but they could use our help in terms of stability supports, a referral to ODSP, a referral to Canada Pension. connection to other community resources that may be able to help, like food programs and career counseling and all of those kinds of things. So we would work with the person in that sense. And then for your first question, sorry, could you refresh my memory?
It was regarding, are those funds fully committed each year?
Yes.
And the subsequent question would be, what do you do with unused funds? Are you able to move them around a bit to meet needs? Because it sounds like you are. Or do you carry them forward to the next year?
So unfortunately, we're not able to carry monies forward to the next year. It'd be nice if we could do that. We are within an envelope. So as an example, with the homelessness prevention program, there are service categories, community outreach, emergency shelters. I think there's 2 others. We're able to move funding around within those parameters.
Okay.
But we do fully expend. So if we notice that we're really down on this program, we can move it here because we're really high over here. So we are able to move things around based on what our local need is. And that can change from year to year as well. So what we did last year isn't necessarily the exact same thing that we're going to do this year, because we might find we need more assistance in that. And every year we actually have to put up the homelessness prevention benefit that we issue in order for people to maintain their housing, because it's way less expensive for people to maintain their housing than to secure new housing, so to lose their housing and have to find something else. So we do like to put a lot of money in that bucket because it's better for the families, it's better for the individuals, and it's better for the community if people can just stay housed. So we do find that that's increasing year to year, and we are able to move within the buckets if we need to, and we do fully expend. Yeah.
100% agreed that is very important. It's one of the reasons why we have a tax and water wastewater bill relief fund, is to prevent loss of housing or loss of dignified housing. And you're okay with the follow-up?
Sure, follow up, and then I'll go to Sam.
And in your communications of program availability or program news, do you work with our communications department? I understood, we talked about at a subsequent meeting where you came to council, I think, there was some talk about working a little more closely with our communications department. Is that something that's ongoing or
Yes.
growing?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do. So whenever we're releasing a program or looking for requests for proposals or expressions of interest, those are always shared with Prince Edward County. They're posted on their website there, and they put them out on their social media as well. So that is going out. And we also work a lot with our community partners. They're working with a lot of the same people that we're working with, so we make sure that the community partners also know this is what's happening, and then they can refer anyone that they need to or submit for program dollars, those kinds of things.
Thank you.
I'll just
Sam.
further,
Sorry, no.
further comment,
some-
and it's two-way communication. So we share data as well, and I know there was a day talking about hoarding, like a hoarding seminar, conference, whatever, one day, and Ellis let me know so we could let staff know, and we had staff there. So it's not just us communicating with Prince Edward County; it's communicating back, so it works out well.
That's great. And I think you're part of the community safety and well-being plan
Yes,
development as
and
well.
my main
So that's
contact-
very rich.
Yeah, my main contact is Ellis, and Ellis can get stuff out. Like, so about Ontario Renovates, I sent it to Ellis, and they distributed it, and I didn't talk to your communications folks. I just used Ellis.
I mean, you don't need to if you got Alice.
Okay, thank you. Sam?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that great presentation as well. So Mark Carney is talking about reducing housing bureaucracy and zoning restrictions. He's also talking about building prefab homes. But what I really do like that he's talking about, all of that obviously is super important, but I like...
Sam, can you speak a bit louder?
So you want me to talk louder?
What's that?
Yes.
Is my volume
If you could, the volumes, it's a little difficult to hear you, Sam.
Oh, okay. It's okay. I'll try to scream like an Italian. So what I mean is, what I like about what he's talking about, all of that obviously is super important, but I like what he Yeah, we're talking about Mark Coney's comments about building more homes faster and prefab homes. So I was just looking to hear your thoughts on that. What I also like, what Mark Carney's talking about, is dropping all the bureaucracy for zoning and getting these homes built faster and not having to go through the design and just speeding things along, which is very, very hopeful for this. So if you want to speak to that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks for the question. We actually don't have a lot of details about what they're calling for through that plan. Ontario is fairly unique in that a lot of the money is flowed to the province, and then the province uses the municipalities to manage their programs, and that does not happen in most of the other provinces. So in most of the other provinces, the federal government has a much more direct line to developing and building housing than they do in Ontario. So how that would work here, I'm not exactly sure. We would have to really wait to see what those details are. I think any improvements to the system are wonderful, but we'll have to see what that is and what it really floats down to on the front line.
Amazing. Thank you.
I'll just further add, CMHC just put out a booklet that lists a whole bunch of different building designs that are like already approved, that the idea is if somebody submits that to be built in a municipality, the municipality, and I'm not sure if the hope is the municipality can pass that really quickly, or so the municipality can't say no to that development. Either one, I'm for, as long as it gets more affordable housing created. But a lot of the designs are really high density, like there's a sixplex of very small apartments where a single family dwelling would go just on a normal city lot or something like that. So I like that, because anything like Councilor Grosso was saying, that anything that can decrease that red tape and get homes built faster is obviously good. So.
Absolutely. We need less red tape or more affordable homes quicker. Thank you for that.
Okay, Crystal, no questions at this point? Okay, then I'll go back to the room. Did you have another question or that you wish to ask, Brad? No, Kate? Yeah. Okay, and then I have a couple. No, you go ahead.
Just getting back to the program, the rent subsidy program that is no longer going to be subscribed. So is there an understanding that the people who currently receive support, you might have mentioned it and I just missed it, will that program follow them until they graduate out of their existing housing, or are they going to be in a bind at some point and there's going to have to be a scramble to protect those residents of whatever unit they live in?
Yeah, sure. At this time, there's a plan to continue to provide them with subsidies for as long as they need it.
For forever.
We've had a couple.
Okay.
We've had a couple people that are in an apartment, and that building is sold, and as a result of the new owner's desires, that person has to move out, and we've moved them to another subsidized unit. It's only when people leave the program that we were wrapping it up, and we've got a couple of other funds that were listed: the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative and the Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative, where we can use some of those funds for rent supplements. So we've been doing that to keep those programs alive. There's and those rentals in our system. There's also a new program called the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit that works like a rent supplement. The main difference is it's attached to the person. All of our traditional rent supplements, it's unit apartment 101 at 123 Main Street. This subsidy goes with the person, so if the person moves around, they can take that subsidy with them.
So for people in the community who currently are sort of becoming vulnerable, who have become disabled or have become who would have benefited from that program in the past, their path is a little murkier to enter into a supportive funding situation.
Yes, I understand your question. So how people get into rent supplements is the same way they get into the LHC units or a nonprofit. They apply, they qualify, and then they get on a waiting list. So if you want a one-bedroom apartment in Picton, we might call you and have a place for you at Mary Street, Lake Street, or at a private residence where we have a rent supplement. It's just whatever comes up, that's what we offer you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we've been able to successfully transition a number of our most vulnerable people in rent supplements, mainly people who are on Ontario Disability Support Program and maybe supported by Community Living Prince Edward or Prince Edward Community Living. Susan Treverton's going to yell at me if I got that wrong, because I got at least one of those iterations wrong. But anyway, we transitioned those folks over to COB because we thought we identified who are our most vulnerable if this program were ever to end. So we've started doing that. So we're thinking ahead.
Right.
It's just,
so that's smart.
It's just
that's
hard
good.
to take
Yeah.
150 rent supplement units and figure out a way to fund those for forever kind of thing, which is what we'd like to do.
That's really good. And your just one final?
Yep.
Your asset management program that you started working on a couple of years ago, or I can't remember which year, but I mean, it was quite an effort. How is that progressing as far as sort of the goals that were identified at the time, which are only hazy in my memory, which was to look to potentially look at shifting some more valuable properties and attaining some more affordable properties to develop. Is that still part of the plan? Is that ongoing, or I'm sorry, it's a big question, but just if there's a nutshell that you can answer in.
Sure. Yeah. That was actually called our housing revitalization plan.
Right.
And almost all of our activities on that plan to sell this piece of property, do more development on this piece of property, counted on government funding at some point. And so since there hasn't been government funding, or we haven't had access to the government funding, we still have those plans and ideas but have not been able to move forward.
Thank you. And I think Sam, I'm watching the election too, like Sam brought up, it's sort of, even though it's light on details, you can see that there's maybe some hope on the horizon, depending on how the election goes. Anyway, thank you very much for that context.
Okay. Thank you. So as I said, I had a couple of questions, and thank you, Councillor McNaught. And your last one kind of touched on where I was going to go with one, anyways. But two different subject matters. So you'd mentioned people on the waiting list. And I think it's one of those numbers that maybe isn't always clear to everybody. We hear horror stories, I'll call them, of 4 and 5 year and longer time periods where people are waiting for housing, which we all know is not good. That's not a good situation. So with regards to the waiting list, and forgive me if I didn't catch the number because you provided a lot of numbers to us. Are you able to let us know how many are on that? Prince Edward County residents or families, households are on that waiting list for either RGI, or social housing, or any of these supplements for that matter?
Yes, we can. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but PELASS has a metrics page where you can go and look at how many people are on the waiting list, and then you can actually just click on a button and look at how many of those are wanting to live in Prince Edward County. It's not where they're from, it's where they want to live. And can you do that with OW as well? The Prince Edward? No, just most of the housing. You can look at the by name list stats. There's a few other stats that you can look at and see what's the total, and then see what's in Prince Edward County. And I can send that link through to somebody, anybody can send it to Ellis, my usual go-to, and Ellis can get it out to this committee if that were Ellis and Adam, and they can get that out to you so that you can see that number.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be helpful because, not only do I feel a little bit in the dark, and I don't like it as, a community representative, not that the information isn't there, it's just that we, and I will say the general public, don't necessarily have all of those facts or know how to access those facts. And I think that's just as important, knowing where to find it. So I've made a note, I will look that up for myself. But yes, if you could share how we can all access that through Ellis or through Ben, our committee coordinator, that would be extremely helpful. I appreciate that. Now I'm going to switch over to capital spending plan. Because as you know, this is something that we concern ourselves with at this committee. While we've shifted away from the plan of build and operate towards more of a advocacy role, as well as developing partnerships, whether private public or public. I think it. So, anyways, and Councillor McNaughton touched on this with regards to some of the potential builds, and it all boils down to lack of funding. I get it. We've experienced our fair share, maybe more than our fair share, of disappointments when it comes to provincial and federal programming. So with regards to that, and I know you stated that last year, 23-24 is 13% investment versus 87% in L&A. That capital plan that is driving that particular spending in any given year, is that information also available? Is that a publicly available capital plan that's similar to the metrics that you'd mentioned?
It's available, but not similar to the metrics. The metrics is on our website where anybody can go any time of the day. Yeah. The capital plan, I can get you that, and then you can just look through. It's a 10-year plan, and you can just look through what's planned over the years. And like I said, and I know it's. I looked at that percentage and I was like, oh, that's not good. But I'm like, well, why would it be good? Because we don't look at that. When we're talking about those community, working with community agencies and funding to distribute when people apply, we're definitely looking at let's see if we can make it make sense here and be close to those percentage lines. But the capital plan, that's done by our property services division. And there's no thinking about it's what's the need. If a place needs a new roof, they're getting a new roof, and it doesn't matter. There's no like, well, we won't replace that roof in Napanee, and we'll do some other roof 3 years earlier in Picton. So it's not split that way, but I can get you that plan.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, recently, our council has. I think we're. I won't say well-versed, but we're well familiar with how the capital plans and how they're financed. And it's not about what you want, it's about what you have to do. I excuse the word need there. It's what you have to do versus what you want to do. And yeah, and definitely the spending is dictated by that plan. So, but anyways, go ahead, Lynn.
If I could just clarify that the capital plan breakdown of cost is not available on that performance metrics dashboard. That's not something that's available there. We're currently looking at what is available on that dashboard from PELASS committee. I'm not sure if that's one of the planned ones or not, but it's not there now, which is why Scott also included what the 22-23 spending was as well, because it isn't available anywhere. However, the capital asset plan is available on the website.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my third one, and then I'll open the floor up again. With regards to as Councillor Nyman had mentioned, developing partnerships. Recently, our municipality has approved a couple of developments. One is not quite totally approved, but they are 50% affordable units. And then there's market, and you actually touched on that you need the market to subsidize the affordable. It's the only financial model that's actually going to work. Simply put, that's the only model that's going to work unless you have high inputs of federal and provincial programs that assist, whether it's CMHC or building houses funds or whatever you want to call them. So just, knowing maybe what you know about us and what our role is in the community, do you see any other ways that PELASS can partner with either the county or through our Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation, or even with private developers? Because, anyways, I'll just leave it at that without trying to lead you somewhere in the rest of a statement.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think we do partner well now. Like, I'm aware of some of the developments that this corporation is hoping to develop. I'm aware of the Pinecrest School. I've been there a few times. I've built housing before with Phil Spry, and he's now the developer on that site. So that's definitely a positive move because he can make it happen. But I think it's just sort of being aware of those. I've also talked to Tim Neeb from not Montgomery Housing, Mahogany Housing, a few times, a number of times, just about the need and working with him, just hoping that CMHC will give extra recognition to Prince Edward County. So I think by working in that way, if all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's a funding program announced, I already have some partners in mind in Prince Edward County, and it's this corporation, and I'm not sure how it would work if your money's flowing through this to Pinecrest, and definitely with Tim, he talked to me about some developments and just different strategies to make some of that housing affordable. So it's the money piece, right?
Yes.
So, and to look at creating housing on your own, like, Prince Edward County is going to fund it. Well, by the time you get through the details of funding a $20 million build, and then plus, guaranteeing that if it ever needs money in the next 30 years, we'll cover it, and we'll have this legacy of debt or issues. Yeah, you've got a 20-unit building, but when you look at the expense to create it, sometimes I think municipalities, especially smaller municipalities, are like, that's just too big a ticket item, just too big of a commitment.
Yeah, I agree. We absolutely need ongoing, consistent funding from our upper level partners if we're ever going to achieve any level of relief for the people that are on that end of the housing spectrum that are in such dire need. So
I don't think Lennox and Addington or Prince Edward County is looking, in the old days, you just got to sit back and the province and feds paid for it all. I think municipalities are willing to pay, and the one third by the three levels of government is a really popular concept that I think municipalities would really embrace. If you had somebody paying 2/3 of the housing costs, all of a sudden to look at what you could do creatively with the 1/3 cost gets a lot more interesting than if you're on the hook for 100% of the cost. Yes. I think I'll just add to that. I think having the PELASS committee with representatives from Prince Edward County and Lennox and Addington works out well, because I think it's a great committee. They work well together. I think everybody's in it for the common good, which is great. But it's I'm definitely aware of programs here and programs in Lennox and Addington as a result of that split. Whereas if it was weighted one side or the other, I don't know if I'd be that informed and then follow things up. Definitely, Councillor Branderhurst has talked to me about a number of issues, and they aren't always about housing, but there's usually a housing connection or a low income connection.
Housing is connected to all of our social issues in one way or another.
Sure.
Brad, did you? Okay, I thought I saw a message come in here, which is handy that somebody prompts me. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Just looking at the screen, I'm not seeing any hands up there. Okay. Thank you. This has been very informative for me. I know, I think at the outset I said, I thought I was familiar with most of the programming, but then I think it's more the details that most people don't understand, particularly people that may be in need and they don't know how to access some of the programming. And from our perspective here in the housing spectrum, It's really, really good to know that we have a potential partner, somebody that's out there looking to address some of the similar issues that we are. So if nobody has any further questions, I will ask for a motion to receive the presentation. Councillor Nyman, Councillor McNaughton? Yes, please.
Nyman McNaughton motion that the presentation by Lynn Chenier, Director, and Scott Robertson, Manager, Prince Edward, Lennox, and Addington Social Services regarding services provided as the County Social Service Manager be received.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you so much for coming to spend some time with us and helping us to open doors here, maybe more than anything.
Thank you. And if you ever want us to come back, we're more than happy to do that. Even if it's just about a specific item, we can just come briefly talk or whatever you need us for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we have very good representation on the PELASS committee with Councillor Nyman, Branderhorst, who's the chair, and our mayor. I know all three are very strong advocates for social supports and housing. Absolutely. So, sure. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Oh. Maybe contact them after. Yeah. Okay, so.
Thank you.
So that brings us now to item 6.1, comments from the audience, but I'm not seeing anybody. We don't have anybody pre-registered to comment. Okay. Brings us to 7.1, items for consideration. Report of the Housing Department dated April 14, 2025 regarding a path forward for Disraeli Street, Picton Affordable Rental Housing Project. And Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sure you're waiting for me to bring some good news to this board at some point. But I did want to update you on the conversations that we'd had with CMHC further to our conversation about the Disraeli Street pro forma in March. So they finally did respond to me and had a bit of a conversation. They were very clear. They're very clear in all their communications to me that they are in caretaker mode and they can't really provide me much of information at all. But they did go through the pro forma spreadsheet for me and gave me some information to enter in as inputs, like the qualifying rate and information about the debt coverage ratio. So I just wanted to come before you with another report because I feel that we are on a path where we need to continue to spend money to make this project happen. But knowing that we have to put those expenses on our line of credit. So I think it's important for me to be able to bring you good advice and advice that is balanced in risk. So there are a lot of uncertainties with the CMHC programs and the timelines pending the outcome of the election. It was good to follow this up from the Lynn and Scott's presentation because they seem to echo the same concerns that we have about the potential for funding and the uncertainties with those funding schemes from the upper levels. So I I give a number of options here, and I wanted to confirm that the 1.5 million deficit that we talked about last time, we need to think of that as being at least that, right? We tweak the pro forma a little bit, those numbers go up. So, as I say, it could be anywhere between the 1.5 and upwards of 3 million, depending on some of these parameters that are unknown. So, really, this is a conversation as to whether we're on the right track with this, or the fundraising component is a bit of a concern. As I outlined in the report, we're competing potentially against other community interests, and it may protract the process to get into that. Talking about the upper level funding, which is a bit of a concern. So what we've arrived at as a recommendation is, because we feel we have a little bit of time, is to issue an expression of interest and see if we can find a partner out there that can help us to implement this project in some shape or form, and then come back to you and then we can decide if we we want to pursue that if we get any interest, or continue on the path we're on, or any combination of those. So looking for the conversation here as to how we feel we should proceed. But the recommendation here is that we sort of pause the expenditures on the project and the path we were on, and see whether there's any other private sector or nonprofit interest out there that could help us with this project.
Okay, and I'm going to be very respectful of Brad's time here because I know you have to leave soon. So go ahead. You have the floor until you're ready to go. How's that?
Okay, thank you. So just a couple questions, Adam. So in the report, it was $5,000 for legal opinion on our, I guess, on the contractual part of it. And I guess that's by going out to an outside legal firm. Can we not use our own in-house lawyer for that?
Mr. Chair, through you. So Matthew in our purchasing department recommended the firm that did the review for the HJ tender. So we've not discussed having our in-house lawyer do it, and so I'm not certain whether that's her area of expertise. But up till now we've not had that conversation.
So I'm just, I guess, I'm having a hard time spending money that we don't have if we have in-house resources. And I think that, it's nice we're paying other people, but we need to check on our own resources first. So that would be the first thing, and I don't know if, if the rest of the board is on board with that. I think that's what we should be looking at. The next one is on page 35, under analysis. The last sentence of that paragraph, or the first paragraph there, is the QR was changed to 4.21, which is higher than the 3%. Just explain that to us, if you could.
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Nyman. So that is the qualifying rate. So I think similar to when you go to the bank for your mortgage, they stress test you as to what you could potentially afford. My understanding is that is this number, is the interest rate that they make us use in the pro forma. The 3.0 that I used was a guess because I hadn't heard from CMHC. I thought that was in the realm, but 4.2 is the number that CMHC tells us to use in the application.
Okay, and then if I could have one more question?
Yes, you have the floor until you have to leave.
All right, thank you. So the fundraising part of it, and I think we all understand that, everybody's asking, or not everybody, but a lot of people are asking for money for projects here, there, and everywhere. But, I think we've had the discussion before where, is some of the fundraising that we could have is services that would be supplied for the project in receipt of a tax receipt. So I'm just wondering, have we not explored that? And I don't know if it's got to go to the fundraising committee or not, but I'm just wondering, because I think all that, the total price includes everything. Yeah, I believe it's the services and all that. And I'm just wondering, that helps, or that's happened in other areas, other projects, not only, it does everywhere. So I'm just wondering, why are we not pushing for that a bit more? That's going to cut that cost down.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question, because I think we all know that we have a fair amount of interest. We could probably leverage all sorts of different requests for the in-kind services. My challenge was that, and CMHC has not confirmed this, but I think we need to have a known source for that shortfall when we apply. So I have to ask them how we would deal with that in the application, because someone would have to backstop, in case someone doesn't donate or whatever. So I think we'd have to think about how that would work. But right now, it looks like the CMHC requires you to have your 25% in writing before they will approve your application. So I don't know how we'd quantify that unless we went out as part of the fundraising group and got commitments as part of that process for all those sorts of things. But I think the question is, could we do we think around the table that we could actually raise through monetary, other sources of fundraising, and in kind, do we think we could get to that amount? And I think that's really the question. Is I know we can leverage connections in the community to help us with things, but can we leverage them to that extent, to the multi-million-dollar extent? I think is really the question of the risk of whether we proceed as we had planned or whether we pivot away.
Okay, and I guess, you know, for me, the extension of the water main and the services going in and all that, I believe that we have good people on staff that are experts in that area. You know, we got the water and the sewer department, we got the roads department, we got the equipment, we got the excavators and the dump trucks and whatever to get that in there. And I'm not sure, but I think the municipalities may get a better price from suppliers than the contractors. Well, I know we would, because as soon as the contractor starts ordering parts for you, you add another 20%. So, you know, that cuts the cost down again. So I'm just, you know, again, use our own internal resources. That will help immensely, I think. At the end of the day, somebody's paying, and I understand that, but, you know, it could be used as training too for like somebody that needs experience doing something. You know, you use that as training, and I think it's something that we should be looking into.
Certainly, Mr. Chair, I totally agree. There's lots of models that we could use. We look at what's going on with HJ and the partnership with Loyalist College, and could we have an entire building be a living classroom and leverage that? I think to me we have the reality of still needing to get to the Class B in order to move this forward, right? We're on the path of the construction manager, which was the rapid way of moving forward. That gets us the constructor on board, and my hesitance there is there's a bit of an expectation when we go down that path that we're going to build this thing. So, you know, and I don't think we're going to be able to move right to construction if we have to find, you know, $2 million or wait for the upper levels of government. So that's why the recommendation here was to you know, not throw all that away, but to see whether there was anybody out there who could maybe do it better, faster, or cheaper, or hold a private loan for it, or some of those things, to see what's out there. But there's nothing to say, you know, the recommendation is to pause the CM or RFP, but there's nothing to say that the board couldn't choose to move down a traditional design path. It would still require us to spend money, but we would still be working toward that Class B. So, I mean, again, there's one of a number of options here, but the suggestion was that before we spend more money that we don't have, is there maybe another thing we can look at for this site without abandoning the main original plan? So that's not the recommendation, of course.
If I could have one last question, and I see the chart here, the best case timeline, which is on page 37, and it alarms me that complete construction is 24 months. That's another 2 years. And I think we've already had the discussion that, you know, we don't have nothing, we as in the corporation or the housing, don't have anything in the ground, and we're losing confidence of the public. So I guess that's a bit concerning to me, and I'm just wondering, is that really the best case scenario, 2 years before we have something?
That assumes, through you, Mr. Chair, the funding application comes through in a reasonable period of time. I am hearing that these are being delayed by months and months and months. So I figured we better protract that a little bit on the basis of having to get to that Class B. But we're assuming about 12 months of construction. So I suppose that is a bit long, but I was trying to create a bit of a reasonable and conservative timeline there. But the fact of the matter is, here we are in April, and we're a little bit behind because we don't have our construction manager retained. So certainly I'd like to see it quicker, but I want to make sure our expectations are tempered a little bit on this.
And I'll jump in there. It was at my request of Adam that because we have had over months various discussions about this happening in this time frame and that time frame, and I suggested maybe, even though we know that it's a very conservative, it's not a very optimistic outlook, but at least to give us all a better idea of potentially what we're looking at in writing as opposed to various discussions. So this is partly at my request, because I honestly was struggling with what happens next. and how far out are we going to be? So that's so just the background on that. I want everybody to know that I'd asked Adam to give us a timeline, even though we know it's not 100% written in stone. It could be far better. I'm not going to say the other statement, but so much of it, as we just heard, is tied in directly to other partners funding. So, but anyways, I just wanted everybody to know that I'd asked for this to help us to try and identify best and worst case scenarios.
Okay, thank you. I won't ask any more questions.
No, that's, hey, ask and ye shall receive. Okay, I'm going to look to the screen. Have we lost Crystal?
I think so.
Okay, because I don't see her name on the list anymore. Maybe she had to step out to a meeting. So, Sam, did you have any questions for Adam with regards to this report?
I am good right now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I am good right now. Thank you.
You're not just good, you're great.
And just see what happens in the federal ethos, and see if it provides any hope for the future of funding for projects like this, because we do have the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and their efforts and to put together that sort of bigger approach. This is just this could potentially just be a tiny piece of that picture, but there could be. I hate saying should we wait and watch just for a month. I hate saying let's wait and watch. To Brad's point, we've been sitting here as counselors, at least me, for 6 years, and I don't want to say wait. But I wonder if we should, just on this motion alone, before we go and look for an external partner, should we just wait for 1 month and have a look and see what's coming? Or is that silly? Because there's always going to be the next project. But I am hesitant if we sort of move toward partnership, are we going to lose a portion of the affordable units, or will that be the principle of that partnership that we would be maintaining 100% affordable?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, those are great questions, and it's a good conversation that we're having on that basis. The EOWC initiative, which it wasn't quite ready to come to us today, as Mr. Chair mentioned it, and they'll be here for May. But projects of this, or sites of this size that don't have immediate servicing were fit into a category called Tier 2. And so the initial tranche of regional sites to go out in the broader EOWC initiative are Tier 1A. So they're the ones that are more readily developable, like our Wellington site. So this wasn't necessarily, it's not necessarily intended for sites like this, Disraeli, to be in that first round. So that's why I thought, well, let's do one on our own. But I would just add to the board that there's very low risk to issuing a broader scope EOI, just to see if anyone's out there. In the county's Queen Elizabeth project, that was a private sector developer who will also be accessing CMHC funding. So although it be a different program than we are contemplating through our efforts here, but anyone else in the private sector would also be looking at delays on the CMHC as well. But I'm thinking that the site is quite small. There might be some compromise to be made. There might be a less expensive way to do it. Maybe there are less units. Maybe there would be a market component. I was hoping, with PELASS, maybe a partnership there on maybe some of those units.
I think Brad was hoping
being
that
RGI
too.
as well. I mean,
I think that's exactly what he was hoping for.
But they crushed my hopes and dreams as well by saying
money.
that they are the service manager and they're in the business of providing the deeply affordable housing in Prince Edward County, and the funding isn't coming for them either. It seems like they're barely able to keep the stock that they have up and running. It seems like a common theme for municipalities right now. So I think there is low risk to the to the EOI. I think that I don't, and this is to Councillor Nyman's points, but he's gone. But that we don't want to lose too much more time. So if we do issue one, no one responds, or we don't get anything worthwhile, then we can get right back onto the design. But at least we'll know if anyone's interested, and if they're not, then we can forge ahead. But I think there's very low risk in putting it out there, because we do have that block of time between the election being finished and they have to form government and probably develop a budget, and I think we have a little bit of time.
Well, I wonder if making part of that EOI, making a little bit of the focus to be a timeline that gets us even some affordable units relatively quickly. And I would say, even if we do have to come down in size a little bit, and even if it is only, say, 9 units, and, you know, all 9 units would be really useful units, even if a few of them aren't affordable, or fit into that affordable category. So, you know, it would, I see what you're saying, low risk. It'll give us a picture of what's out there.
Yeah. Okay. And also, with regards to the EOI, there's a time lag with development and actually getting it out there, is there not? That we could be, this gap that we know is there, yeah. And I'm going to be very blunt. It's not to the end of this month. It's probably 2-3+ months by the time the federal government, whichever federal government is there, gets their act together and actually gives direction to CMHC and approves funding.
Oh, I think it'll be more like 6 months.
I'm being positive, thinking 3 months.
Yeah, I think that's like, I mean, they said that they would prioritize it, and they don't have the specifics laid out.
There's
However,
a lot of things to happen yet, include, you know, not just the election, but then they have to develop a budget, get it approved, and
if a housing center, you know, housing oriented party even gets elected.
So that's
which,
why
by the way, lawn signs, everyone.
That's why I for me, I guess, expression of interest, getting that ball rolling is good use of time. I'll call it quiet time, not wasted time. Quiet time. Because we do have to sit and wait, unfortunately, and that's totally out of our hands.
So, but Brad's question was leading to making sure that there's that servicing component. This was discussed around budget last year, but not at budget. Is that something that we'll be seeing move forward at budget time? Or do we know, like, is that something that is part of what staff might be planning to bring forward for the budget overview? I mean, the budget process is quite a long, drawn-out process, and I realize you don't have a magic wand that you get to wave to say, this is what's automatically going to be included, but is this something that that our housing department is going to be advocating for? Put you on the spot.
Well, I would advocate for it every day, all day long. Okay. I mean, the thing is I think that at last budget, in preparation for 2025 budget, we were anticipating some provincial funds coming out for the last mile servicing. We were kind of hopeful with that. The program did come out, but it wasn't intended for projects quite like that. Last mile means different things to different people, I guess. So at this time, we have not thought about bringing it forward. I certainly echo Councillor Nyman's thoughts that it is not anywhere near as expensive as the engineering firm had come up with for an estimate, and I totally agree that it could be done in short order as part of the site work, either by our forces or contracted services. I think once the time comes.
How many meters was it?
It's only like 20 or 30 meters of it's probably going to be about the same as the service laterals going to the building from the street, than from the street to the existing services. So I see it as being just site work, and I'm totally on the same page that we've got to find ways to do it that don't involve expensive contractors. But I think the thing is, we still need to get to the point with the project that it has a design. I mean, where we can't jump to constructing it until we figure out what the design looks like and in great detail, so we can apply. So my comment or my recommendation too was that we pause the construction manager while we undertake the EOI. So those, you don't necessarily have to do both at once. We could proceed with both, but again, if we have something that comes back out of the EOI that is compelling, then we'll still be on the hook for spending the money on at least a portion of the construction management money. So that was the thought process there. But I certainly don't want to take a lot of time with this. I want to get it ready to go, get it issued, get it out there, and just tell us what's out there quick and dirty, and we'll have further conversations on it if someone's interested, and then pivot right back to getting the project shovel ready ourselves if the board chooses to continue down that path. At that point, it'll be after the election. We should have some signal about what programs may be coming as a priority for the new government.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Sam, I see you've popped back on the screen.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just listening, taking it all in.
Okay. All right. No, I just don't want to miss the opportunity to give you the opportunity to jump in. Okay. Where was I going to go? No, I guess I didn't have any questions. So if no one else has any questions, we three are now quorum. So hopefully we don't accidentally drop Sam, because then our meeting comes to a screeching halt. So
I'm good for another 28 minutes, and then I gotta go get the kids at school.
Okay. All right. But no, I didn't want us to get disconnected, unfortunately. So, okay. So I need a mover and seconder to get this motion on the floor. I didn't do that at the beginning.
I mean, imagine who that could be. Do you want to move it, or do you want me to?
I will second it.
Okay.
All right. Would you like me to read it, or go ahead?
I can read it.
Okay.
That staff report HC-5 2025 be received. That staff be directed to issue an expression of interest to seek an external partner for the development of the Disraeli Street Picton affordable rental housing project. And that staff be directed to pause activities related to the retention of a construction manager until such time as the results of the expression of interest have been brought to the board for consideration.
Okay. So I think we've discussed it at length, so I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Thank you.
So many of us.
Yeah. So it's so now we move on to item 7.2, and the reason this is on the agenda was despite the fact that I really wanted to respond to CMHC's response, I did not feel it was appropriate that I do that without board support, because I was not given a blank sheet to go ahead and bounce emails back and forth. So essentially the reason I asked it to be placed on the agenda was to so that everybody on this committee knows what is in the response to their response, and to garner the board's support to send it out. So I think everybody's read the letter. Does anyone have any questions regarding it? No? Then I will ask for a motion to as printed on the agenda.
I do have one
Sure.
question. Or not. Actually, I'm not going to ask that question. Can we add to the list of the copied list, just to include any additional ministries that touch on service provision for people, so any social service ministers, any federal or provincial ministers that have disability in their portfolio additionally, just to be beefing it up, because everyone's facing the same issue
So Ellis,
or similar issues.
and full disclosure, Ellis was the one that wrote this wonderful letter.
It's great.
For me, for the board. And yeah, did you want to respond? And yeah, and I know there's actually one, it really shouldn't be there right now because Ryan Williams is not our MP at this point. He's in flux. So, and it could be
No,
somebody
but
different.
you know what, including
Spell it.
all the potential candidates. I don't know. Maybe that would be probably,
Yeah, so anyways, let's
Yeah.
get Alice to take on it.
Through the chair and to all three of you, we could add, I think last time we actually added the provincial minister and parliamentary assistant, so we could do that and send it to the candidates for that matter, or wait 2 weeks and see who gets elected. But either way, I don't know if you need a motion to add to the CC.
probably not, but if you're happy to do
It's
it.
not the
Yeah,
substantive portion.
and then, you know, we currently have a new Minister of Housing, Rob Flack, and so I think, yeah, I would be more than comfortable to give Alice
Yeah,
the latitude to send to whomever they wish, think it's appropriate. Because it is a short list, but also we don't know exactly what's going on federally, who's going to be in there, who the department heads are even, let alone PAs and MPs. So.
would also potentially Roma, advocacy contacts at Roma, just so they're aware, and they are aware, but just they're in contact with, other rural Ontario municipalities.
Yeah, AMO Chair Robin Jones, there's a lengthy list of people that might be helpful, because I think they're experiencing a lot of the same issues we are.
And through the chair, that would include the EOWC as well. They've cited the EOWC as the source that, but it says quite clearly in their data dashboard that they only get information from census divisions, and they're relying on the same kind of classified listings that are less accurate than what we have. So if we need to start that conversation, then
I think
would do that.
It was really good to add them. That made sense.
Yeah, so yeah,
Thank you.
like I say, if the committee, and I'm not really going to look for a motion, just if the three of us right now are comfortable with giving Alice the latitude to add to that CC list to those that are, I think we all understand who the important ones are at this point, so.
We do.
If I could ask a quick question through the chair, there is, Scott Robertson had mentioned about an advocacy group that was writing kind of the similar letter, if I'd be able to share that once the CC list was added.
Absolutely.
They're meeting in 2 weeks, I believe.
That's a good idea.
All of us in the same situation need to be supporting and communicating with each other to strengthen that advocacy when it comes to this entire issue. So, okay, all right. So you have read the motion, Councillor McNaughton?
I did.
You did. Okay, Councillor Grosso, did you have anything you wish to add to the conversation?
I'm good.
We're good? Yep. Okay, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, Alice.
Action tracker.
You go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them, but I wanted to give the board an idea of what to expect for next month. Yep. And so I think I mentioned, and so did you, Mr. Chair, that the regional approach, the EOI initiative through EOWC, we are expecting a presentation at our May meeting. So we parked the conversation about the Wellington site and its inclusion potentially in that program until next meeting. So hopefully we can have that conversation then. But also we hope to bring information on the communication strategy. That was shown for Q1, and so we're a little behind on that. Q1 just basically ended. The finance part, I know we do owe you a budget for this year. I was waiting until the treasurer had returned, and now I need to, I've been holding off on over leveraging Mr. McNichol, but he and I have chatted briefly. I need to sit down with him and basically take him through what the board expects to see in the financial reporting, and he's just getting access to the financial systems to help us out. So just to let the board know, we've that's been delayed on that basis, but we're gonna get caught up and make sure the acting treasurer can help us with the financial aspect. So we expect something hopefully for May on that. The governance manual, the working group had met once and gone over some recommended changes. I think that conversations were occurring with our lawyer, Ms. Vayo. I know she's also been busy with assisting in Director Moyer's absence. So we hope to have something potentially for May from that, but it'll be pending her availability to kind of meet and just go through some of the recommended changes from a legal perspective. So we want to have that conversation sooner than later. And the couple other ones that are on Q2 that we'd like to bring forward, talking about interested developers. We do have a couple of things potentially to bring forward, and I'll be having the discussion with the chair as we get toward May. And then the other one I wanted to mention was our Wellington site. The consultant did not have an update for me. As I'm expecting one today or sometime this week, and so, Mr. Chair, we'll have to have a conversation whether that necessitates a meeting between now and our next board meeting, because there may be some implications on that for the environmental work that can influence our conversation about the EOI and its inclusion. So as soon as I get the most recent update, I'm not anticipating from what he's told me that it's going to be a positive one, and so we may have to convene a special meeting between now and then. But I'll have that discussion with you, Mr. Chair, and we'll see what that looks like and be ready for the conversation about the EOI approach in May. So unless there are any other questions, that was. I just simply wanted to give an update on our progress over Q1 and let you know what's coming for the next meeting.
Okay. Councillor McNaughton?
In the report, I can't remember the agenda item number, but you reference meeting with Tapestry, who is sort of the one or one of two entities that will administer bond programs locally. And there is, I think there was a suggestion that we could meet with them. Is that something that, and I think that's something that we should do. I wonder how, just to learn a little bit more about how it could work with the terms that you laid out in the report that suggest you can start with, very small investment to understand how complete a project, a vision has to be, or how we could look to start just building our literacy on this matter, on developing bonds and investment vehicles. So I'm wondering if that's something that that Sam and Phil, you'd be interested in seeing get added to the tracker to begin that relationship in the next few months.
Are you looking for, say, a presentation or deputation from somebody who has expertise in community bonds as a start? Is that where you're going?
Well, I think that, I don't know if you guys have done, I don't know how much work's been done by you and Brad as, and Crystal as people who've been around a lot longer than I have. But yeah, I think it would be really useful to essentially build the relationship, build the literacy, build the understanding about what can be done. And they're the local one-stop shopping, I think. With them paired with the foundation is sort of our one local or regional avenue to do something like that. So I'd be interested in just learning a little bit more, hearing what the possibilities are, hearing there was another I think municipality, I think Haliburton was mentioned in the report. It'd be interesting to hear also what they're doing in a little bit more detail. So, I mean, that's what I would be looking to understand. And we've got Mary Warner lives right in town, and I believe she's one of the people who manages Tapestry.
Okay, and if you jogged my memory, if I recall, we quite some time ago we had presentations from Shannon Cool and Dominique Jones, yes, from the foundation, but that was with previous board members. So maybe as a way to assist, because I'm not even sure if Crystal was with us at that point. I can't recall.
It was I believe it was when I first took the role, so it would have been February of 2024 when we had that meeting. Yeah, it's quite a while, over a year.
So there was a
And that
discussion
was
about
with the
fundraising.
foundation. That was Shannon Cool was
Shannon, we were trying to learn more about fundraising programs and such.
Okay.
And speaking to the two local experts in that
Okay.
field,
Yeah, I
Dominique
don't,
and Shannon.
and I wouldn't want to make additional work, or like, you know, having to, you know, repeat performances and stuff like that, but, you know,
we did-
Tapestry themselves have experience in this realm. I don't know.
But so I just, as you were talking, I was remembering
Right.
that we did have an
Yeah.
initial conversation with two very much experts in
Right.
a lot of that in our community, and that I think we all at the time found it very, very helpful. So I'm going to go to Ellis.
Well, I just wanted to flag that May 1st is the Teeny Tiny Summit at Crystal Palace with a panel on housing, including Phil for the Housing Corporation. But the one of the other two speakers is from Places for People from Halliburton to talk exactly about community bonds. So I can either get that information to you or
I'm
the
attending.
councilors. Okay, the councilors were supposed to get invited. So yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
We
panel
all did
that
get
I am
invited,
sitting on.
and we all
part
did
of the
get
discussion.
invited. And
Oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
no, I'm saying we all got invited, and I'm going to be excited to be there. Yeah.
But Mr. Chair, if the board wishes to direct staff to invite representatives from Tapestry to make a presentation to the board, then certainly make motion and we'll get it in the tracker and we can get that going. If it is the will of the board, we'd be happy to set something up.
Something I'd like to do, I would put that motion on the floor to add that to the tracker to see if they'd like to come and present.
Yep. If you've got a seconder and Councillor Grosso, yeah, okay.
Or even just be here to answer questions about how it works.
Yeah, I think this is all and from, I'll say from my perspective, and I'll have to speak for Crystal, the two of us on the fundraising committee. I think it's helpful that we all of us, as well as Crystal and I, have that better background on all of the potential options, which would then bring us to a conversation with Darlene Norris. Too many names in my brain right now. So yes, I think it's good. We'll have to leave it to staff to determine whether it's May or June, and then obviously other people's schedules too.
Yeah.
So
It'll be at your wish, Mr. Chair. When
at a
that
future
happens.
meeting in the very near future. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll
So
call
moved.
the motion to add that to the tracker. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Was there anything else, any questions, any other questions that members have with regards to the action tracker? No? It's a lot of work there. There's a lot of things on the go and many, many things that, again, are just on the go. So, two-person team trying to get it all done. So, okay. And yes, the Teeny Tiny Summit. I have to say, I listened to the Grapevine on 99.3 today. Our own Emily Cowan was there promoting it and talking about the events that are going on in that day, all the various speakers, the panels, as well as the breakout rooms. Very much looking forward, on my part, participating in that. And certainly, because I know we're being live streamed, I very much want to make sure that the general public who may be watching, they do have the opportunity to attend. This is not just a municipal thing. The general public can attend, and I encourage them to because I think there will be a lot to learn for all of us. Councillors, staff, and the general public. Yes, 2 thumbs up from Sam. So that's my little promotion for Teeny Tiny Summit on May the 1st. Ellis, if there's more that you want to add to, because I know this is a project you've been working on.
People can sign up on the county website. If you go into the search button and put bar and put Teeny Tiny Summit, the registration form will come up, or through social media.
Okay, perfect. So we have 7.3 as a motion there.
We just need a motion to receive the tracker now. We've
Yes.
passed the other motion.
So that's moved by Councillor Grosso, seconded by Councillor McNaughton. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, and our next meeting is May the 12th, and we are anticipating the EOWC to be here. And I'll let the board know right now that there's an interested group in Wellington that are going to attend, but listen, they wish to hear what the EOWC has to say with regards to creating partnerships on various sites. And I'm sorry, that's why I called you Friday when you were out, and was to let you know that they are interested and will likely be in the audience to hear what the EOWC opportunities may be and how that might work with some potential plans that that group of individuals and service organization, Wellington Rotary, what they may be suggesting. So my conversation with one of the individuals was urging them to please be in attendance, hear what the EOWC has to say, and then maybe there are ways we can all work together. So.
Is it just Wellington Rotary, or is it other?
It's multiple parties involved. So, but we'll learn more about that later, I guess. So anyways, okay, so yes, now we needed a motion to adjourn. So I'll go Councillor McNaughton, Councillor Grosso.
Sam gets this.
Okay, we'll give it to Sam.
All right, this is a.
Is anybody going to oppose that? No. All in favor?
I don't think so. That the meeting of the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation now adjourn at 2:52 p.m.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Sam. I'm hoping you're feeling much better, and I hope to see you in person soon.
I'm hoping to be there Wednesday.
Okay, wonderful. Meantime, have yourself a great day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.